A small promise to yourself can rebuild trust. Why self-trust is easier to lose than people realize? When people think about trust, they usually think about relationships with others. They think about honesty, loyalty, and keeping promises. But there is another kind of trust that often receives much less attention. The trust you have in yourself every time you tell yourself you will start something tomorrow or wake up earlier, exercise regularly, study harder, or stop a habit and then do the opposite. Your brain notices. It may seem like a small moment, but those repeated experiences quietly shape how much you believe your own words. This is interesting because self-confidence often begins with self-trust, and self-trust is built one decision at a time. The promises nobody else hears. Every day, people make small promises that no one else ever knows about. I'll go for a walk after dinner. I'll finish this chapter before bed. I'll stop scrolling after 10 minutes. Most of these promises are never written down, and nobody checks whether they happen. Yet, they still matter. Your brain keeps a record of those moments, even when you do not consciously think about them. Over time, those private promises become part of the relationship you have with yourself. Why broken promises feel bigger than they look? Missing one small goal does not seem important. Life gets busy, plans change, and everyone has difficult days. The problem appears when breaking personal promises becomes a pattern. Eventually, your mind begins expecting those promises to be broken. This raises a question. If you repeatedly tell yourself you will do something and rarely follow through, why would your brain continue believing you? Just as trust between two people depends on consistency, self-trust grows or weakens through repeated experiences. A situation that feels familiar. I've noticed this while trying to build new habits. At first, I would create ambitious plans, study for 3 hours, exercise every day, read 50 pages every night. The plan felt exciting for a few days, but eventually, I stopped following it. After repeating that cycle several times, I realized the problem was not motivation. The promises were simply too large to keep consistently. Once I started making much smaller commitments, following through became easier. And strangely enough, I began believing myself again. Why small wins matter so much? Many people underestimate the psychological power of completing small commitments. Finishing one short workout, reading a few pages, organizing one desk drawer, or taking a 10-minute walk may not seem impressive. But every completed promise sends the brain a simple message. I do what I say I will do. That message becomes stronger every time the behavior is repeated. Confidence often grows from these quiet moments rather than dramatic achievements. The difference between motivation and reliability. People often wait until they feel motivated before taking action. The problem is that motivation changes constantly. Some days it feels effortless to begin, while other days even simple tasks seem difficult. Reliability works differently. Reliable people continue showing up even when motivation is low. The same principle applies internally. Self-trust develops when your actions become dependable rather than emotional. You stop relying on inspiration and start relying on consistency. Why the brain pays attention to patterns? The brain naturally looks for patterns because patterns help predict future behavior. If you repeatedly follow through on your commitments, your brain begins expecting consistency. If you repeatedly abandon goals, after a few days, that pattern also becomes expected. This is interesting because your future confidence is partly based on evidence collected from your past behavior. Your brain believes what it repeatedly experiences much more than what it repeatedly hears. How perfection quietly damages progress. One reason people lose self-trust is that they expect perfection from the beginning. Missing one workout turns into quitting the entire routine. Skipping one study session becomes an excuse to stop completely. But trust is not built through perfection. It is built through returning after setbacks. Someone who misses one day but continues the next is strengthening self-trust much more than someone who repeatedly starts over with unrealistic expectations. Why keeping tiny promises changes bigger ones. The interesting thing about small commitments is that they often grow naturally. Someone who consistently keeps a promise to read 5 pages may eventually enjoy reading 20. A 10-minute walk may become 30 minutes without feeling forced. Bigger habits often develop from smaller ones because success creates confidence, confidence encourages repetition, and repetition creates momentum. Large changes rarely appear overnight. They usually grow from promises that once seemed almost too small to matter. The role of identity, people often describe themselves using labels like disciplined, unreliable, organized, or inconsistent. Those identities do not appear randomly. They are built through repeated actions. Every promise you keep becomes evidence supporting a new identity. Instead of trying to convince yourself that you are disciplined, you gradually become disciplined by acting like someone who follows through. Identity changes most effectively when behavior changes first. Why self-trust affects every area of life. Self-trust influences much more than productivity. It affects relationships, education, careers, health, and emotional well-being. When you believe your own commitments, difficult goals feel more realistic because you trust yourself to keep moving. Without that trust, even simple plans can feel uncertain. The quiet confidence nobody sees. Some of the strongest confidence is invisible. It does not come from loud speeches or public achievements. It comes from waking up each day knowing you can rely on yourself. That confidence is built privately through countless small decisions that nobody else notices. Finishing what you started, keeping your word, returning after setbacks. Those ordinary moments slowly create a sense of stability that no outside praise can replace. Why today is usually enough. People often believe they need a perfect Monday, a new month, or a major life event before changing their habits. In reality, rebuilding self-trust usually begins with one ordinary decision made today. One completed promise becomes evidence, then another, and another. Before long, your brain begins expecting consistency instead of disappointment. The transformation feels gradual because it is built through repetition rather than dramatic breakthroughs. Final thoughts. A small promise to yourself can rebuild trust because self-trust grows through consistent actions rather than perfect intentions. Every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you strengthen the belief that your words match your actions. Over time, those small promises become the foundation of confidence, discipline, and resilience. You do not need to change your entire life in one day. Sometimes the most powerful step forward is simply making one promise that you know you can keep and then keeping it. Thanks for watching.